Okay, October 13th. On this date, October 13th in 1792, construction began on the White House. At that time, it was called the Executive Mansion or the President's Palace or other things, but essentially, construction. It was the first public building built in the new Washington, D.C. District of Columbia. The District of Columbia was set up with land that was essentially donated by Maryland and Virginia. So it was supposed to be a 10 square mile piece of land. Virginia later in the 1840s took their land back, which is why if you look at DC on the map, it looks like part of a square with the Potomac kind of splitting it. So that happened today in 1792. George Washington laid the cornerstone. He's the only president to have not lived in the White House. So it was started in 1792. So this would have been just before Washington was elected to his second term. It took 8 years. And so John Adams moved in toward the end of his term. So Thomas Jefferson was the first one to live there full time for his 2 terms. It cost about $240,000 at the time, about $75 million in today's dollars to build the White House, and this did not include the what you see today with the big wings off to the side, the east and west wings. Those weren't added until the early 20th century by Teddy Roosevelt. There's been major construction projects over the years as they've tried to renovate it. The most recent major one being when Harry Truman was president. So again, today in 1792, construction began on the White House. John Adams was the first one to live there very briefly. Thomas Jefferson, and then when James Madison was president, it was burned during the War of 1812 and had to be massively renovated. And then James Monroe moved back in later in his second term. So that's what I have for you today, beginning of the construction of the White House. I will see you tomorrow.